The cafe smelled faintly of burnt coffee and desperation. Plates clattered, the old ceiling fan whined like a tired animal, and in the middle of the chaos stood Lena, a young waitress with trembling hands and tired eyes that carried years of pain in them. Her apron was stained with old spills, her hair tied into a messy bun that barely held up, and her cracked shoes told a story of survival. Every day, she worked 16 hours straight, serving coffee with a forced smile while fighting tears she refused to show. To the world, she was invisible. But to herself, she was barely holding on. That morning started worse than usual. Her landlord had threatened to throw her out if she didn't pay rent by Friday. Her younger brother was in the hospital again, the bills piling up higher than her hope. And now, the cafe manager, Rick, a man with a cruel smirk, was in one of his moods. "You dropped another order, Lena," he barked, his voice slicing through the chatter. "Do you even have a brain in that pretty head of yours?" The customers turned, watching her flinch. "I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to," she stuttered. "Sorry doesn't pay for broken plates," he shouted, slamming his hand on the counter. "You want to keep this job? Move faster. You're slower than a snail in syrup." The humiliation burned. Lena's eyes filled, but she blinked them away. She couldn't afford to cry. Crying made people think you were weak, and weakness was something the world used against you. She turned, picked up another tray, and whispered to herself, "Just one more day. Just get through one more day." But fate wasn't finished testing her. That morning, a new customer sat quietly at the corner table, a man in his 30s, dressed plainly in jeans and a gray hoodie. His name was Ethan, though no one at the cafe knew that he was actually Ethan Cole, the undercover CEO of the massive corporation that owned this very cafe chain. He'd come to see how his employees were treated, disguised as a regular customer. He wanted to understand what really happened on the ground, beyond polished reports and cheerful HR memos. He noticed her the moment she approached his table. The way she forced a smile despite her red, tired eyes. The way her hands shook slightly when she poured his coffee. The way she said, "Thank you for waiting," like it cost her something. "You okay?" he asked softly. She froze. No one ever asked her that. For a second, her throat locked, unsure if she should answer honestly. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her eyes betrayed the lie. Ethan didn't push. He nodded, but something inside him tightened. He'd seen exhaustion before. His own mother had looked that way once, after working double shifts just to keep food on the table. An hour passed. The cafe grew busier. Lena darted between tables, balancing trays, taking orders, cleaning spills. Then it happened. Someone bumped into her. The tray flew. Hot soup splashed on her arm, the bowl shattered, and the crowd gasped. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," the customer said, panicking. But Rick stormed in before anyone could speak. "Unbelievable," he shouted. "Can't you do anything right? It was an accident. An accident that'll come out of your paycheck. Do you even know how much that bowl costs?" Lena's lip trembled. The pain from the burn stung, but the words hurt more. Rick leaned closer, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're lucky I don't fire you right now. You're a mess, Lena. Maybe if you weren't such a charity case, you'd actually do your job properly." The customers went quiet. A few turned away. A few pretended not to notice. Ethan's jaw clenched. And then it happened. Rick shoved her lightly toward the kitchen door. "Clean it up before someone slips." Lena stumbled, falling to her knees. Shards of glass slicing her palm. The cafe went silent for a heartbeat. Ethan stood halfway up, but Lena stopped him with a small gesture, her pride, fragile but alive. She picked up the pieces quietly, whispering through tears, "Please, don't kick me, I'm already hurt." The words weren't meant for anyone to hear, but Ethan did. And something inside him broke. When she stood again, her hands were bleeding. She wrapped them in a napkin and went back to work. No one thanked her. No one cared. But Ethan watched every second, fury building in his chest. Not just at Rick, but at himself, at the system he'd built that allowed people like her to suffer while men like Rick thrived. After his meal, Ethan left a $100 bill on the table with a note written in neat handwriting, "You deserve better." Then he quietly asked another waitress for the manager's full name. He planned to come back, not as a customer, but as the CEO who owned this place. But fate had one more cruelty for Lena that day. When her shift ended, Rick called her into the back office. "I'm docking your pay for today," he said coldly. "And if you can't stop crying on the floor, don't bother showing up tomorrow. We need strong people, not walking tragedies." She tried to plead, "Please, sir, I really need this job." My brother, he's sick, and Rick raised a hand. Not my problem. Maybe try being less pathetic. He tossed a crumpled envelope toward her reduced wages. She caught it with trembling hands, muttered a thank you, and walked out. The cold evening air bit at her skin. She sat on the curb outside, clutching the envelope, sobbing quietly where no one could see. But Ethan saw. He had been waiting by his car, watching everything unfold. He wanted to see how far Rick would go. Now he knew. He walked over, his voice gentle. Lena. She looked up, startled. Oh, sir, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You don't need to apologize. He sat beside her on the curb, the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company sitting next to a waitress who thought she was worthless. That man shouldn't talk to anyone like that. She shook her head. It's fine. I'm used to it. People like me don't get treated any better. People like you know, poor, broken, replaceable. Ethan looked at her, his expression softening. You're not replaceable, Lena. You're exhausted, yes, but you're stronger than you think. She laughed bitterly. Strong. I can barely keep my head up. My brother's sick, my landlord's chasing rent, my manager hates me, I'm one mistake away from losing everything. Ethan hesitated, fighting the urge to reveal who he really was. What if I told you? Maybe things can change. Maybe someone's watching out for you, even if you don't know it yet. She gave a small, tired smile. Then I'd say, I hope you're right. He nodded. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow, come to work like usual. Things might look different soon. She looked confused, but his calm confidence gave her a strange sense of peace. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel completely alone. As Ethan drove away, his phone buzzed. His assistant's voice came through. Sir, you were gone all day. The board's waiting. Tell them they'll wait a little longer, Ethan said coldly. I've seen enough. It's time to clean house. That night, he drafted an internal memo ordering a full investigation into employee treatment at all cafe branches, starting with Rick's. And Lena, she went home to her small apartment, her body aching but her heart just a little lighter. She didn't know why that man's kindness had touched her so deeply, but it had. When she fell asleep beside her brother's hospital photo, she whispered, maybe tomorrow will be kinder. Little did she know, tomorrow would change everything. The morning light crept through the thin curtains of Lena's tiny apartment, warming her bruised hands. Her alarm clock buzzed beside the bed, but she didn't move. For a few seconds, she just lay there, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering if she could gather the strength to face another day. Her palms still ached from yesterday's glass cuts, and her heart still carried the sting of humiliation. But then, she remembered that stranger, the man with the calm voice and gentle eyes, who had told her, things might look different soon. Something about the way he'd said it felt like more than kindness. It felt like a promise. She got up, tied her hair back, and walked to work. Her shoes squeaked on the wet pavement, her uniform still smelling faintly of coffee. She tried to convince herself it would just be another day of surviving, but deep down, she felt something stirring, something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. When she arrived at the cafe, something was off. The atmosphere was quieter. The other waitresses were whispering nervously near the counter. Rick wasn't barking orders as usual. Instead, he was pacing by the office door, sweat on his brow. A group of men and women in business attire stood near the back, clipboard in hand, badges pinned neatly on their coats. Who are they? Lena whispered to one of the waitresses. Head office, the girl said. They just showed up this morning. Apparently, the owner sent them. Some kind of inspection or something. Lena's heart skipped. The owner. Before she could think further, Rick's voice echoed. Lena, in here, now. She froze but obeyed. He was standing in the office, pale and shaking. Listen, he said in a low voice, if anyone asks you about yesterday, you keep your mouth shut. You hear me? You don't say a word about that soup, or the pay deduction, or anything. You understand? Her eyes widened. Why? What's going on? He gritted his teeth. Just do as I say, girl, or I'll make sure you never work in this town again. Before she could respond, a calm male voice spoke from behind. That won't be your decision to make, Rick. Rick turned, startled, and froze. Standing in the doorway was Ethan, no longer in a hoodie but in a tailored navy suit that radiated quiet authority. His ID badge gleamed. Ethan Cole, CEO, Cole Enterprises. The entire cafe fell silent. Lena gasped. Her knees almost buckled. Why you're... Ethan gave a small nod. Yes, Lena, I own this cafe, and several hundred more like it. Yesterday, I was here, undercover. Rick stammered, "Sir, I didn't know." "No, you didn't," Ethan said coldly, stepping closer. "That's the point." He turned to the others. "This man has been verbally abusing his staff, withholding wages, and violating our employee code of ethics. Effective immediately, he's terminated." Rick's face drained of color. "You can't just." "I can," Ethan interrupted. "And I just did." Two security personnel stepped forward, escorting the sputtering manager out of the cafe. The other employees watched, stunned, as the man who'd tormented them for years was finally silenced. Ethan turned to the staff, his voice gentler now. "No one here should ever be afraid to come to work. From today, this cafe will be managed with respect, fairness, and dignity. If anyone has been mistreated, report it. You'll be heard." His gaze found Lena. She stood frozen, unable to comprehend everything happening. I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would you care? People like me, we're just small." Ethan's expression softened. "You're not small, Lena. You're the reason this company exists. My mother was a waitress just like you. She raised me on tips and exhaustion. When I built this company, I promised myself no one under my name would ever be treated the way she was. But I stopped watching. I trusted the wrong people. Yesterday, you reminded me what matters." Tears welled in her eyes. She tried to speak but couldn't. He smiled slightly. "From now on, things will be different. You'll get your full pay restored, and your medical bills for your brother, consider them covered." Lena shook her head, overwhelmed. "No, sir, please, you've done enough. I can't take charity." Ethan smiled. "It's not charity, it's justice." Her lips trembled. "Thank you, I don't know how to thank you." "By believing you deserve it," he said gently. He walked her outside for a moment, where the sunlight warmed the pavement. The other workers peeked through the window, smiling through tears. "You've been through a lot, Lena," he said quietly. "But from today, you're not alone anymore." She looked up at him, her eyes glistening. "You said yesterday that someone might be watching out for me. I didn't think you meant it." He chuckled softly. "When you said, 'Please, don't kick me, I'm already hurt,' it stayed with me all night. I couldn't forget those words. No one should have to beg not to be broken." Her voice cracked. "I was just tired. I didn't mean for anyone to hear." "I'm glad I did," Ethan said. "Because now I can do something about it." Over the next few weeks, everything changed. The cafe underwent renovations, not just in paint and furniture but in spirit. Lena was promoted to floor supervisor, guiding new hires with the same kindness she'd once been denied. Ethan visited often, sometimes as a CEO, sometimes as the same man in a hoodie who'd quietly watched her serve coffee with tired grace. People began to notice the difference. Customers came not just for the coffee, but for the warmth of the place. Staff who once feared every shift now smiled. Laughter replaced silence. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan sat in his usual corner, watching Lena lead her team. Her hair was no longer messy, her eyes no longer tired. She looked alive. When she walked over with his usual order, she smiled shyly. "Still taking notes, boss?" He grinned. "Just appreciating the view. The cafe's glowing again." She laughed. "No, it's the people. You gave us a reason to feel seen." He looked at her quietly, then said, "You gave me a reason to remember why I started all this." For a moment, silence lingered between them, full of something unspoken. Later that night, as the last customers left, Lena stepped outside and looked up at the stars. Her brother had just called. He was improving, the hospital bills paid, the doctors hopeful. For the first time in years, she felt like life wasn't just surviving anymore, it was living. Ethan joined her, hands in his pockets. "How's your brother?" "Getting better. Because of you." He shook his head. "Because of you. You never gave up." She smiled softly. "You know, when I first saw you, I thought you were just another customer. Now you've turned my whole world upside down." He chuckled. "Sometimes the best things happen when you least expect them." The streetlight cast a golden glow over them as she whispered, "Thank you, Ethan, for seeing me when no one else did." He looked at her, sincerity in every word. "You were never invisible, Lena. The world just needed to open its eyes." The wind stirred gently between them, carrying away the last remnants of yesterday's pain. She looked stronger, radiant even. And Ethan knew this wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for her, but for everyone she inspired. Before he left, he turned to her one last time. "If you ever doubt yourself again," he said softly, "remember, pain doesn't define you. How you rise from it does." She smiled, her heart full. Then all. Keep rising. As Ethan walked away under the city lights, Lena whispered to herself, maybe tomorrow won't just be kinder, maybe it'll be beautiful. And somewhere deep inside, she knew it already was.